I've lived alone in my cabin for nearly 10 years. It's surrounded by thick woods, and my closest neighbor is miles away. I've always loved the peace and quiet, away from everything. But a couple of months ago, something changed. It all started one chilly October evening. The leaves had turned red and gold, and I was on my usual walk through the woods. I often walk to a small clearing not too far from the cabin to clear my head. That's when I noticed something odd. Standing near the edge of the trees was a figure, half hidden by the shadows. At first, I thought it was a hunter or a lost hiker. But they didn't move. They just stood there, watching me. I thought about calling out, but before I could, they slipped back into the trees and disappeared. It made me uneasy, but I told myself it was nothing. Just someone passing through. For the next few days, things seemed normal. But I couldn't shake the feeling that I was being watched. I'd glance out the window at night, expecting to see something, but there was nothing there. That feeling stayed with me. Then, a week later, I saw the figure again. This time, it was closer to the cabin. I was sitting on my porch just after sunset when I saw movement near the clearing. The figure was back, standing in the trees, closer than before. They didn't move, just watched me. I stared at them for a long time, trying to figure out who they were, but like before, they vanished into the woods. That night, I barely slept. Every sound made me jump, every creak of the floorboard set me on edge. The next morning, I took Duke, my dog, out to the clearing, but there were no footprints, no signs that anyone had been there. Days passed, and nothing happened. I almost convinced myself it had been my imagination. But then, late one night, I heard it, whispering. It was faint at first, like someone murmuring outside the cabin. I thought it was the wind at first, but it wasn't. The whispering grew louder, though I couldn't make out any words. I got up, grabbed my flashlight, and went outside. The cold air stung my skin as I stepped onto the porch. Duke was with me, his ears perked up, growling softly. I shone the flashlight toward the trees, but I didn't see anyone. The whispering stopped, and everything went silent. That's when I saw the figure again. They were standing just inside the tree line, closer than ever before. I couldn't make out any details in the darkness, but I knew it was the same person. They didn't move, didn't say anything, just stood there, watching. My heart was pounding. I slowly backed into the cabin, locking the door behind me. Duke was barking like crazy, and the whispering started again, louder this time, almost like it was calling me to come back outside. I didn't sleep that night. The next morning, I packed a bag and left the cabin. I haven't been back since. But sometimes, late at night, when everything's quiet, I swear I still hear the whispers. And I know, they're still out there, waiting. Blackthorn Forest was always a place people avoided. It wasn't far from my grandpa's cabin, but it felt like it was from another world. The townsfolk had stories about it, but no one knew for sure what happened inside. They just said it was dangerous and strange, and most didn't even like to talk about it. When Grandpa died, I inherited the cabin. I thought it would be nice to have a quiet place away from the busy city, so I decided to stay there for a while. The cabin was old but comfortable, surrounded by thick trees, with a clear view of the edge of the forest. For the first few days, everything was calm. Duke, my grandpa's old dog, seemed to like it there, and I enjoyed the peace. But on the third night, something changed. It was late, around midnight. I was sitting on the porch, enjoying the cool air when I heard something moving in the woods. It wasn't loud, just a soft rustling, like something walking through the leaves. Duke's ears perked up, and he stared at the trees. His usual calm was gone, and he started to growl, low and deep. I grabbed my flashlight and pointed it toward the sound. The beam lit up the trees, but I didn't see anything. The forest was still. Too still. It wasn't just the rustling that stopped, everything stopped. No wind, no night sounds, nothing. Just silence. "Hello?" I called, feeling a bit foolish. "Is someone out there?" No answer. But the feeling of being watched was overwhelming. I couldn't see anyone, but I knew something was there. Watching. The next morning, I tried to tell myself it was just an animal. Maybe a deer or a coyote. But the way Duke reacted, the way the night suddenly went silent, it didn't sit right with me. Still, I tried to ignore it. Then, the knocking started. It was just after midnight again when I heard it. 3 slow, steady knocks on the back of the cabin. Duke jumped up, barking wildly. I grabbed my flashlight and opened the door, but no one was there. I checked all around the cabin, but there were no footprints, no signs that anyone had been near. I convinced myself it was nothing. Maybe an animal brushing against the cabin, or the wind. But deep down, I didn't believe it. The next night, the knocks came again. This time, they were louder, and they came from all sides of the cabin, like someone, or something, was moving around, tapping on the walls. Duke barked like crazy, but when I opened the door, once again, there was nothing. After that, I started sleeping with my rifle nearby. Whatever was out there, it wasn't friendly. The knocking became a regular occurrence. Every night, always at midnight, the same slow, deliberate knocks. It was like something was toying with me, testing my patience. Then, one night, I heard footsteps. Heavy, slow footsteps, right outside the cabin. I didn't want to look, but I had to. I grabbed my flashlight, opened the door just a crack, and shined the light outside. There was no one there, but I could hear the footsteps. They were close, right at the edge of the trees, but no matter how hard I looked, I couldn't see anything. I slammed the door shut, locking it behind me. I sat in the dark for hours, listening to the footsteps moving around the cabin, never coming closer, but never leaving either. The next day, I decided I had to leave. Whatever was in that forest, it wasn't going to stop. I packed up as much as I could, loaded my truck, and drove away. But as I looked in the rearview mirror, I saw it. A figure standing just at the edge of the forest, watching me. I couldn't make out any details, but I knew it had been there all along. And I knew it wasn't done. That forest? It doesn't just haunt you. It hunts you.